We're good to go. We're good to go. All right. Well, why don't you start because you said you had something
Hey,
to
how are
share.
you today?
Fantastic. Like I said, I'm amazing. I'm amazing every day.
You are amazing every day. You
You are too.
consciously choose to be amazing
That's
every day.
right. That's right.
And I am amazing too. I am amazing. And I wanted to tell you a story that I heard last night. Do you want to hear it?
Yes.
Okay. So, and you tell me what you think about it, okay?
Okay. Okay.
So imagine there is a little girl playing in her neighborhood, and she is being bullied by some other kids. She
Mhm.
runs into her house to seek protection from her mom. And her mom gets out and said to her, "There is no room for coward in this house. Go outside and go figure it out." What would you think about it?
So the girl comes in and says she's being bullied, and mom says there's no room for cowards in this house. Wow.
What would you say it is?
I would say that that's going to leave a mark on the little girl.
Sure.
She's going to her way of being is going to be she's a coward because somebody told her that she was a coward.
Yeah, and her mom.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that story, that same story, was told on public television in
Okay.
2016. And it's what society considers as normal. Because you know who that little girl was? It was Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton. And the
It
story
was
was
Hillary
told,
Clinton.
and the story was told during the campaign for the Democrats in 2016. And actually, the story is told by Gabor Mate, you know, that book, who
Okay.
said
Yeah.
we're going to talk about trauma. And the story was told by the voice of God, Morgan Freeman,
Uh,
who, and actually they were talking about how that was a wonderful example of building resilience, of building strength and courage in a person.
mm-hmm.
So it was accepted. That's what society considers as normal. The story doesn't end here. So remember, during the campaign, she got sick. Hillary Clinton, she got sick.
Mm-hmm.
She had pneumonia. And what does she do? She sucked it up. She didn't talk about it until she crumbles in the streets in front of everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So until her body said no, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So Gabor Mate tells this story, and I've watched him listen to it, and it really hit home to me. I have to say I was crying listening to it because society has just normalized child abuse. So what we consider as normal is not normal. That little girl needed a hug. That little girl needed
Yes.
reassurance from her
Yes.
mom.
Yes.
And what happens in society is that children, like trauma, most of the children are traumatized. I was traumatized, and I'm sure you were too.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And
Yeah.
everyone I know, my husband, and we have these scars, and we develop coping mechanisms and addictions
Mm-hmm.
and all sort of things because we missed 4 fundamental elements that every child needs.
And what are those 4 elements?
Those 4 elements are guidance,
Okay.
nurturing, protection, and love.
Mm-hmm.
And Dan Seeger, who's also somebody that has done a tremendous work on child development, on the brain, on education. He calls it the 4 S's that children needs to be seen, to be soothed, to feel safe and secure. And our children today don't have that because society considers that you need to be strong and resilient. So children grow up stuffing their true nature, and then years later, it shows up in the form of ADHD. Every kid has ADHD now, even one of my son. or autoimmune disease, or all kind of disorders. So I love, as I've told you, the book, because it really raises an important question. And I want to be advocate for that, for the children. That's why women are so important for me. That's why how we educate children is so important for me. There is a lot of suffering, and society just considers it as normal. Anyway, so that's what was on my heart. I'm sorry, I've been talking for 5 minutes.
Maybe, no, it's okay. I think maybe also part of your mission might be being an advocate for the parents. Because as you're saying, a lot of times what parents think is good is to toughen the kids up, well, you don't be a coward. There's no room for cowards in this house because we have to toughen you up, right? You have to have that grit, and we've got to instill this in you. Yes. And so it's also, it's not only being an advocate for the children's, but for the parents.
It's
and
for
the way
parents.
They treat their children, right?
They treat their children like that because that's how they have been treated. And right. I watched one of the interviews of Gabor Mate, and the person who was doing the interview said, when I was little, my parents, they beat me just a little, but it wasn't a big deal. And Gabor Mate says, it wasn't a big deal for whom? The adult you are now, or for the children at that time?
Right.
So for the child, it's always a big deal. But what happens is that we cope with it. We find things, we change our personality, we learn to be tough, and we become a monster sometimes. And Gabor Mate says, when it's tough, it either will appear in the form of immune system disease, or illness, right? So he also referred this amazing book of Bessel van der Kolk, The Body Keeps a Score, that talks about that. And anyway, I'm happy. I'm happy because there are a lot of books that are being written right now. So I feel like there is information. I'm sorry, my phone is ringing at the same time. That's when it's direct, right? It's anyway. So society is talking about it, and there are books that are being written now. So people are kind of realizing that it's important. And some of the books that I can cite that I think will be amazing for people to read, I'm thinking of 5 right now. I am thinking of The Body Keeps a Score from Bessel van der Kolk. I am thinking of What Happened to You. That is an amazing book written by Oprah and Bruce Perry, who is also a child psychologist, talking about, when the people who do the worst things are people who have the worst happen to them. You never become a monster all of a sudden, right? So in the book, they say what happened to you, that when somebody is acting funny or doing something very bad, the question to ask the person is, what's wrong with you? It's really what happened to you. What's the root cause of that?
Right.
So that's a great book. There is another one that is The Deepest Well, about childhood trauma, adverse childhood experiences, ACEs. That is my heart, my mission. I am invested in moms, in women, because I believe that if we take care of ourselves, we can understand and take care of our children, and we can maybe create a better world, right? So that's also beautiful. An amazing book. And then there is one book that I recommend to every parent, every expecting mom. It's Parenting from the Inside Out. That really shows how, as an adult, you can do the work of healing your inner child, of repairing your childhood trauma in order to be parenting your children well. And of course, this one, The Myth of Normal, the latest book that talks about all of that. And I think it cites many of the books that I have, that I'm just citing you. So I've been passionate about it. I've read a lot about it. So you can either read the book, or people can also reach out to me to have sessions or just to talk about it during one conversation. But healing starts with really recognizing that we have been traumatized, and going back to our core, to our nature, to our wholeness, like the self that a lot of people don't like. It's coming back to that self that is going to save us.
Yeah, I just want to add something that an idea that I've been exposed to over the past couple of years. And when I listened to Brooke Castillo's podcast for the first time, I don't even think it registered with me, but later on there was a Q&A and somebody said, well, this is what I've gotten out of this. And I said, well, I've gotten so much out of this, but not this insight. And then it's come up with the ultimate coach in that community as well, is that we have the perfect parents for who we need to be. And maybe our work is to find out how that's true. To find out, like as you were talking about Hillary Clinton coming home, I thought of a story that I guess it would be a trauma for me. I was in middle school, and my mom, sometimes I'd walk home because we were that close, but sometimes we would eat lunch and hang out a little too late, and she'd have to give us a ride back to school. So it's the middle of winter. My mom is giving me a ride back to middle school, 6th grade, and there was a mean boy who was out in the street, and he wasn't lobbing, he was throwing snowballs at the cars that were passing by. And one of them hit our car, and my mom was just, that made her very uneasy, because this kid, he's big for his age. He's a tough kid. And I was thinking to myself, oh, Mom, why didn't you go like I imagine a mom would do and get all in his face and say, hey, you stop harassing, you stop throwing snowballs at the car and everything. And that was me, I guess, learning that my mom would be a certain way. And maybe it's not the way that I expected.
Yes.
And there's another one that I always tell about, we don't have time to get into it too much today, but about my dad beat me violently. And it was unusual for him, but he beat me violently because of something I said, a flippant comment, a creative insult I did to my brother, and he just had it. And he beat me. And so that one has stuck with me as well. But now I'm thinking through the lens of, well, what did that teach me? And what do I have to learn from that? Well, like you said, trauma, if it is indeed a trauma, what do I have to learn from that?
Yeah, what do you have to learn? And usually, I don't know if you did that, but I know for me, the memories and the experiences that were painful, what I used to do was really to stuff them. I didn't want them to come back.
Right.
And
Right.
what Gabor Mate says, and what psychologists, most of them say, is that whatever the emotion, you sit with it, you let it, you don't try to diminish it or dwell in it. You just let it happen. You sit with it, you let it go. It will go, but you feel it, right? Because everything that we've done, addiction, really, I talk about addiction a lot because I know a lot of people who have been addicted. There was addiction in my own home, right? It's just a way. It's not like Gabor Mate. He has also a book that is amazing on addiction, In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts. And his movie that he made, there is a movie about his work called The Wisdom of Trauma. if you go on thewisdomoftrauma.com, you can watch the movie. You can watch it for free or give $5 or $10 to help spread the word. But he talks about compassion about people who are addicted, because addiction, what is it? It is just a natural way for us human beings to protect ourselves from the pain that is happening to us.
Right.
So
To
almost
keep
like a
us
natural instinct.
to keep us from feeling something that's
Exactly.
uncomfortable
It's
for us to
anything.
feel.
Gabor Mate has a wonderful definition of addiction too, that anything that gives us relief, it gives us an instant relief about something, but it's not permanent. And we go back to it, but it does hurt us. It hurt us, but we go to it because it gives us a little relief. So anything we do, for some it's shopping, for some it's overeating, for some it's, I don't know, pornography. For some
Pornography, drugs,
sleeping with.
alcohol, drugs, alcohol. You
Yes,
can say
but even work,
procrastination.
even work.
Work. Yeah.
Gabor Mate, his addiction was buying compulsively this compact disc, classical music compact disc. He would spend thousands at a time.
Yeah.
And he tells the story of him leaving a woman in labor, because he's a doctor, to go buy discs. And I think he never finished that. The baby never, So he tells the story. And for some, it's just work, workaholics.
Yeah.
What are you running away from anyway?
Right.
So it's passionate. And so I spoke with Steve Hardison earlier today. He's been gracious enough to talk to me for 10 minutes. And this was on my head. And it's been heavy on me. It's been heavy on me. Trauma, everything that I'm doing basically to be with women, to my coaching business, and all the way that I want to help women. And he said something that is important. He says, guess, the first person you need to take care of is you.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. I do relate so much to Hillary Clinton at 4-year-old being bullied. I have a story, and it's my second grade teacher. I don't know if you have time, but basically I was in the French school in Senegal, in Dakar. And we were in the French school, and all of the teacher was white, and almost all of the children were white. And I think it was me and another girl, we were the only Black woman. And believe it or not, the teacher, she was racist. And she would pull my hair, she would say mean things to me, and she traumatized me. And I couldn't go home and tell my mom what this woman would do to me, because my mom wanted us to be good children, to behave well. And so every time I would go home with a note about my behavior, and my mom would not be happy with me. Sometimes I would be beaten because of what. So basically my mom was an ally of my the person,
like
how do you say,
of your teacher and not
yes.
Yes.
And I just learned to count on myself and not to trust people and things like that. Anyway, so there is this inner girl in me as well who needed love. And so that's why right now, self-love, self-compassion, self-acceptance is big for me. So I give to myself all the love that I need. I don't seek it outside. I used to seek it outside, but I am, whatever now I seek, I give it to myself first.
Right.
So it doesn't run away from me.
Right.
So Steve was gracious enough to say, yes, take care of you. And the second thing is, instead of, thinking that, he didn't say it like that. He said, just who's the next girl next to you to reach out to and to help, right? And it's for all of us. We don't need to go out and be doing big things. Just our neighbor, the next person near us. One person at a time.
Like what he says, it's the person in front of me.
Yes, one person at a time. Exactly.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Well, we've gone a little bit over.
Oh, yeah. It was passionate.
So I'm going to go ahead and thank you all for joining us. We do this every day. We don't have a consistent schedule on the dot right now, but I think that will evolve as we
That will evolve.
get into this a little more. But thank you. Join us every morning, afternoon, every day.
Every day for 15 minutes. Thank you. We love you.
Okay, so I'm going to stop the live stream now. Thanks, everybody. And we are out, and then we'll stop the recording.